Hey girl, let's talk crime. On today's episode, we will be discussing the brutal murder of 27-year-old Lauren Giddings. So imagine feeling uneasy in the very place that you called home, coming into your apartment and feeling like your things have been moved around, remembering that after you had taken a shower, you put your dirty clothes in the basket, but then you see them on the floor. You start to wonder if you're losing it. Has someone been in your apartment? Is someone watching you? There are no signs of forced entry. All your windows are locked. And so you don't want to call the police because what would you tell them? There's no proof of anything, but the feeling is so incredibly strong that you tell your friends and family about it. That is exactly how Lauren Giddings felt in her Macon, Georgia apartment in the summer of 2011. Lauren Giddings was born on April 18th, 1984 to her parents Karen and Bill in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Lauren was the oldest of three children with two younger siblings, Caitlin and Sarah. So Lauren absolutely loved animals. She was especially fond of her dog Butterbean, who held a very special place in her heart. Lauren was extremely popular growing up and never had an issue making friends or maintaining those friendships. She was a very kind soul, even to those who others would deem as an outcast. Lauren was very athletic and she played softball and hockey during high school. Lauren's family was extremely proud of her as she was the first person in their family to go to college. Initially, she had planned to go to medical school. However, she was struggling a bit with some of the subjects and ended up switching her major and wanted to study law with an end goal of her being a public defender. Although Lauren had moved to Georgia for school, she kept in contact with those close to her, including her best friends from elementary school, Katie and Lori. Lauren attended college at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia, which is outside of Atlanta. So in 2006, she did graduate with a major in political science and a minor in religious studies. She ended up getting this internship at this law firm called King and Spalding. And in 2008, she was accepted into Mercer University in Macon, Georgia to earn her law degree. During her internship, her relationship with a man by the name of David Van Diver, who she had been dating, really blossomed. He was a trial attorney and 20 years her senior. Things were really going well for Lauren. So across the street from Mercer University is a 16-unit apartment complex called Barrister's Hall, specifically for Mercer law students. So on the website, it states that it is a quiet, private, and spacious apartment for law students who don't have to worry about the dorm lifestyle and having messy or noisy roommates. In June 2011, Lauren's sister Caitlin got married in their home state of Maryland. Lauren did attend this wedding and then she returned home back to Macon, Georgia, to her apartment and informed her family that for the next few weeks she was unplugging. She wouldn't be on social media, she wouldn't be on her phone because she really needed to focus and study as she was preparing for the biggest test of her life, the Georgia bar exam. In the same apartment complex where Lauren lived, right next door to her in apartment number 4 was a 25-year-old man by the name of Stephen McDaniel. Now, Stephen was born in September 1985 to his parents, Mark and Glenda, and grew up in a suburb of Atlanta. Stephen was a very, very extremely intelligent man. People that knew him would describe him as someone who enjoyed reading, was obsessively clean, and also a loner. Stephen enjoyed fantasy stories, mostly from like the medieval time era. He would often post online about how he had been bullied for his hobbies and also for the way that he looked. Now, he loved guns, knives, swords, horror movies, and had this theory that the end of the world was quickly approaching, which would kind of keep people at bay. Stephen was not fond of his sister, calling her a waste of space. He really felt some kind of way towards his mother and how committed she was to her faith. Stephen worked extremely hard in school and it paid off. So after he graduated high school in 2004, he earned a presidential scholarship to Mercer University where he majored in business. After graduation, he enrolled into Mercer Law School and would start at the same time as Lauren. His end goal was to become a federal judge. Stephen's mom said that it wasn't so much that he was a hermit, but he just had a lot of work to focus on, which is what kept him in the house a lot of the times. However, college classmates would describe him as someone that was shy, awkward, and stayed to himself a lot. His friends would say that he had a zombie fetish, and he would often ask others their opinion on how to carry out the perfect murder. Although Stephen and Lauren were complete opposites, she was never rude to him, and there was not a time that they seen each other that she did not speak. Now, for Lauren, this was normal. She was used to being kind to others. She was used to making friends easily. She was always the popular girl and a very nice person. But for Stephen, this was something very different. This was new. Never had anyone ever showed him this much kindness, especially someone as beautiful as Lauren. Stephen soon found himself having feelings for Lauren. He had even asked her out on a couple of different occasions, and each time she would politely decline, stating that she had a boyfriend. So there was a time where Lauren had invited Stephen to a bar for their graduation. However, Stephen did not mingle with anyone. He was off to the side by himself, playing darts all night. Lauren would encourage Stephen to do things like go out, engage with others. However, her friends would often say that he was very odd. He was really weird. They had even went as far as telling her to be careful around him because they were genuinely concerned. Lauren thought the idea of Stephen being dangerous was pretty silly, but even if he was, she said that she would be safe because she was always so kind to him. As time went on, Stephen would begin to cyber stalk Lauren. He would look at her Facebook, her Twitter, and even her LinkedIn, while he was also looking at violent pornography. Stephen had stolen a master key from the landlord, giving him complete access to everyone's apartment, especially Lauren's, and he was able to come and go whenever he pleased. He knew everything about Lauren, her schedule, how long she would be gone, when she was going to class, and things that you really shouldn't know about a person unless they tell you or you're really close to them. On June 24th, 2011, Lauren had stayed the night with a friend as her boyfriend, David, was out of town. Now, the following day, which was Saturday the 25th, she ran some errands and then took a swim at the Macon Country Club. She headed back to her apartment around 6:30 p.m. Now that evening, a little after 10 p.m., Lauren sends her boyfriend an email. In the email, she talked about needing to pack as her lease was getting ready to end in about a week. She also mentioned how she thought someone had broken into her apartment a few days prior. Talked about their future and, the college, and then she ended the email. Now, after she sent David this email, she put the door stopper that was suggested by friends in front of the door after she had told them that she felt like someone was coming in and out of her apartment. She then checked her entire apartment and laid down for the evening. But her neighbor, Stephen McDaniel, was wide awake. He had a plan for that night, and he knew he didn't have much time to execute it, as he was well aware of Lauren's lease ending soon. And for him, this meant that he was not going to be able to see her anymore, talk to her anymore, stalk her, have these fantasies or fetishes, or act on anything else. Stephen goes to Lauren's apartment and tries to use the master key he had. However, he quickly realized that something was keeping the door from opening. He goes back to his apartment and he tapes his camera to a broom, and then he goes to the back of the apartment complex, raises it up to Lauren's window so he could see exactly why he was not able to get in. was at this point that he saw that she had a door stopper in front of her door. So he returns back to his apartment and Googled how to break into someone's apartment with a door stopper. And unfortunately, he was able to find that answer. So around 4:30 a.m., Stephen enters Lauren's apartment with a mask and gloves on. He went straight to her bedroom where he watched her sleep for some time until she woke up. She calmly told him to get the fuck out. This is when Stephen lunges across the bed and begins choking Lauren. She tried to defend herself and ends up falling off the bed where he continued to strangle her. At some point during this attack, Lauren is able to pull the mask off of his face, and once she saw that it was Stephen, she begged him to stop, and he didn't until she was dead. After killing Lauren in her apartment, he then drags her body to her bathroom, puts her in her tub, and leaves her apartment. Now, the following evening around midnight, Stephen returns back to Lauren's apartment, this time with a hacksaw that he stole from the maintenance closet on property. Stephen begins to dismember Lauren's body. He removes her head as well as her arms and her legs, and then places the body parts in trash bags and disposes of them in trash cans. Stephen ends up cutting up the mask and the gloves that he was wearing and flushing them down the toilet, doing everything that he thought he was supposed to do to destroy evidence. A few days later, he placed her torso in the trash can in front of their apartment. After that, Stephen cleaned Lauren's apartment as if nothing had ever happened. Around this time, her family and friends had been reaching out to her with no answer. Now, they knew that she was studying for this big test, but for no one to have no contact with Lauren for the past 4 days was extremely odd, and they did report her missing. So friends of Lauren's ends up going to her apartment to see if she was there. While knocking on the door, Stephen comes out of his apartment and asks what's going on. They explain that they haven't seen Lauren, asked if he had seen Lauren, in which he replied no, and then they had all began searching for Lauren. But while they were looking for Lauren, one of the friends remembered that she would keep a spare key in a candle on her balcony. So once they went inside the apartment, they did find her wallet, her purse, and her phone. They just knew that something was very wrong. Once police arrive on the scene, they ask all of her neighbors if they can search their apartments, and they all agreed except for Stephen. He felt uncomfortable allowing them into his apartment without a warrant. He did have a recorded interview with police about his last time seeing Lauren and his relationship with her. Now, once this interview was over with Stephen, the officer then heads back to Lauren's apartment, and on the way there, he smells this really, really foul odor coming from the trash cans in front of the apartments. Now, the trash was supposed to be picked up early that morning. However, the driver was running behind. And so inside this trash can, police did find a part of Lauren's body, her torso. And it was at this point that they knew the search for Lauren and any possibility of her being found alive was over. Authorities wanted to speak with Stephen at the station. He was unaware that part of Lauren's body had been located. After the interview, he was taken back home and he was asked again if he would be open to his apartment being searched. Stephen agreed this time, but only if he was able to be present during the search. Now, after the search, Stephen walked across the street to Mercer University, where news and media had already been set up. They saw Stephen coming out of his apartment with a police officer and asked him for an interview. It was during this news interview on June 30th, 2011, that the reporter revealed to Stephen that part of Lauren's body had been located.
I was living there?
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time or anything like that?
I mean, No one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, you always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they had recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you heard it? Had you seen? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
Up until this point, he just knew that he was going to get away with the murder and dismemberment of Lauren because he thought that he had covered all of his tracks. Once authorities saw his reaction, he immediately became a person of interest. So as I mentioned earlier, Stephen would post online a lot under the username SOL, which stood for Son of Liberty, about his struggles, his hobbies, fetishes, and so forth. There was a post made about a year ago prior to the murder of Lauren that gives people the chills. He talked about going to a Westboro Baptist Church protest and killing everyone there. And then after, he would pretend to have this mental breakdown and be still and quiet for the next 24 hours, answering no one or using very limited responses. After this, he would come to and say that he didn't remember anything. Ultimately, his goal was to play the insane role, and this is exactly what he did in his interrogation video.
Up there?
Yes,
Well, who lives up there?
my parents.
Okay. Any brothers or sisters?
My sister lives in Tucker.
Georgia?
Yes.
After the interrogation was over, Stephen was then charged with Lauren's murder. The evidence included the videos that he had taken when stalking Lauren, internet searches, and having the master key to the apartments, giving him full access to Lauren's apartment. Stephen was also charged with 20 counts of child pornography. And now Stephen wanted a deal. He said that he would plead guilty to Lauren's murder and tell everything that happened if they dropped the child pornography charges and took the death penalty off the table. So the deal was accepted, and Stephen was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 2041. Lauren's family has created the Lauren Teresa Giddings Scholarship Fund, which is a scholarship for those with strong academic credentials with a focus on those who were the first to attend college in their immediate families.